They say you can never go back, that the moments that make up our lives, once they're gone, are just gone. A scent on the air, a half-remembered song, the feeling of a specific summer afternoon, they all fade. And honestly, I was starting to believe them. An algorithm, a line of code, a different way of looking at the data. So, I decided to build one. This is the story of how I wrote a program that let me do the impossible. Go back and actually relive my forgotten memories. I'd look at a picture of a younger me and feel this weird disconnect, like I was looking at a stranger whose life I'd only read about. Disconnected, broken, and silent. A massive unqueried database of my own existence. The stories were all there, but there was no way to read them. It's like a single page torn from a novelette tells you nothing about the chapter, let alone the plot. I'd scroll through old photos, trying to force a connection, trying to brute force a memory back into existence. It just doesn't work that way. Memory is all about connection. It's about context. An Apple's time machine is great for restoring a spreadsheet you accidentally deleted, but it can't restore a feeling you thought you'd lost forever. That science fiction idea of a time machine, something I'd read about in books by guys like H.G. Wells, suddenly felt plausible, not as a machine of spinning gears and flashing lights, but as one built from pure code. This would be my personal time machine project, not for mapping centuries of history, but for mapping the forgotten corners of a single life. I had JPGs with location data, moved video files, plain text, emails, HTML chat logs from old messengers, calendar files, a dozen different formats from different eras. They were all speaking different languages. Chronos needed to be a universal translator. Then it would scan my timeline for anything else in that time window. A simple, dark mode interface with a single search bar and a timeline. My heart was pounding. What do you even search for first in your own soul? A major life event. Graduation, my first love. I ran into what researchers call the funnel effect. My digital history from the last 5 years was incredibly rich and dense. 4 memories from the early 2000s. I might only have a few Lori's photos and a couple of emails. After about 30 seconds, that felt like an hour. The results appeared. The engine had to be smart enough to build a compelling story from even the faintest digital whispers. A scruffy, unconditionally loving terrier mix who was my shadow for 15 years. It pulled up the album art for a Phoenix album, and suddenly, I could almost hear the opening riff of 1901 in my head. Below that, it showed a snippet from an email my dad sent me that morning with the subject line, "Funny video." He's been gone a long time, and while I have photos of him, the day-to-day feeling of our time together, it just blurred. In the background of that blurry photo, almost invisible, was a family having a picnic on a red checkered blanket. To be honest, the privacy implications of a tool this powerful are something the world needs to think about very, very carefully. But this story isn't about selling an app. It's a proof of concept. It's a testament to an idea. We can use our digital tools not just for productivity and efficiency, but for reflection, for connection, and for memory. I remembered seeing that family and thinking how happy they looked. I remembered the exact worn-out feel of that tennis ball as I threw it for Buster, again and again and again. And in that instant, the floodgates just opened. A thin blue line traced the exact path we had walked through the park. The program had taken these dead, scattered pieces of data and resurrected the feeling, the context, the life. It had given me back not just a forgotten afternoon, but a piece of my own heart. Below the map, a chat window, reconstructed from an old MSN Messenger log I'd pulled from a forgotten hard drive. I've rediscovered old friendships, understood heartbreaks in a new light, and pieced together the person I used to be with the person I am today. It's the most profound thing I've ever built. It's my way of making sure my digital legacy isn't just a chaotic pile of data, but a story that I can always return to. So I want to ask you, if you had this code, what's the one forgotten memory you would try to find first? A conversation with my friend Alex, right before I left the house. Going to take the dog out for a bit? A message I'd typed and forgotten 1,000 times, but there it was. This wasn't just a folder of files. Chronos had built what I started calling a moment view. It was this dynamic, interactive collage of the afternoon. In the center was a photo I barely remembered taking, a blurry shot of Buster chasing a tennis ball, his ears flying back. It would find a calendar entry from Mike SBBQ from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. It would see my phone's GPS data placing me at Mike's address. It would even find a like I left on Mike's Facebook status about the party later that evening. I spent months writing custom scripts parser designed to read each file type, understand its structure. Everything, and I mean everything, had to be placed on a single, unified timeline. That was the backbone of the entire system. It restores the bits and bytes, not the heartbeat of the moment. This was the heart of getting everything on a timeline is one thing, but making it meaningful is something else entirely. This is where I leaned heavily on machine learning. I trained a model to do more than just sort by date. I trained it to find relationships. Our brains, for all their wonders, are a terrible filing system. I started by requesting my data archives from every service I'd ever used. Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them. Then I went deeper. I dug out old dusty hard drives from my closet. They compress things, they corrupt files, they overwrite data. They keep the headline but delete the article. The memories were there, I guess, but the color had been drained out of them. They were facts, not feelings. It's the cozy chair you were in, the friend you were talking to, the rainy street you were watching through the window, the song that was playing in the background. It was late one night, probably fueled by way too much coffee, and I was just staring at a screen full of code. The problem of my fading memories was the exact same problem I was solving at work, just on a deeply personal scale. My life wasn't a collection of individual files. It was a relational data. I was working on a project that involved linking totally separate data, finding patterns and relationships in a chaotic mess of information. And there I was, this gap-toothed kid at a birthday party, surrounded by other kids. I recognized myself, but I couldn't remember the day. All that was left was this silent, two-dimensional sliver of a moment, completely stripped of its life, its joy, its context. 1. The haunting emptiness. Our digital footprint is massive, a sprawling continent of our own history. But it's a wilderness. It's thousands of photos in a cloud drive, tens of thousands of emails in an account you forgot the password to, and countless chat messages scattered across a half-dozen apps. This whole thing didn't hit me all at once. It was more of a slow, creeping realization. And as we live more of our lives online, the problem gets even weirder. We have more data than ever before. We document everything. It's a total paradox. We've meticulously recorded our lives, yet we feel more disconnected from our own pasts than ever. And that was the ache. The frustration, just knowing that all the pieces of my past were out there, floating around in the digital ether. 2. The spark of an impossible idea. Think about the memory of a perfect cup of coffee. It isn't just about the taste, right? What if I could write a program that could act like a digital archaeologist for my own life? A program that could dig up every single piece of data from my past, every photo, every email, every chat log, every calendar entry, every location, tag in, piece them all back together. It wouldn't just be a backup, it would be a reconstruction. It wouldn't just show me a photo from a specific day, it would recreate the context of that day. It would find the email I sent that morning, the song I was listening to on my commute, the friends I was messaging, the place I was standing when I took that picture. The idea was exhilarating. It felt completely absurd, maybe even impossible. 3. Building the Chronos engine. Phase 2 was building the Rosetta Stone. All the data I gathered was a chaotic digital Babel. For example, the engine would find a photo taken at 3:15 p.m. on a Saturday. Individually, these are just meaningless data points, but layered together, they reconstruct the moment. They add the texture, the depth, the story. After countless sleepless nights, and moments where I was sure the complexity would crush me, it was finally done. 4. The first trip back. I thought of my old dog, Buster. Tuesday, July 14, 2009. Afternoon at Greenwood Park with Buster. To the left was a small map showing the GPS data from the photo. On the right, it got even more surreal. Chronos had cross-referenced a timestamp with my music library from that time. I remembered the smell of freshly cut grass. This started as a really personal project for me, but it's made me wonder about the memories that other people hold on to. I've spent the last few months just exploring my own past through the idea that technology doesn't have to be this force that disconnects us. They say you can never go back, but they didn't have the source code.